Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins as a man named Tamaki is being stabbed repeatedly. The girl stabbing him sounds like a psychopath as she calls out his name. Her knife begins to glow and Tamaki loses his life. Soon after, Tamaki is shocked to see that he is somehow still alive as he wakes up to find some kind of green monster talking to him. It gives him the name Gabaru and it force feeds him some giant disgusting bug. Gabaru is still too tired to do anything, so he falls back asleep. When he wakes up the next day, Gabaru is surrounded by what he calls a bunch of ugly green babies. He then realizes that he is one of them. This leads him to conclude that he had died, and he was then reborn as a helpless little goblin. 3 days later, Gabaru determines that goblins mature much faster than humans, as he has grown a lot. Gabaru becomes excited when he sees that he has a voice again, and he is very agile. He decides not to overthink things, and he just becomes grateful to have a second chance at life. Gabaru vows to survive the best he can with his new life, and he makes it to day 4. The man that's been feeding them informs all the newborn goblins that they will have to get their own food after this last meal. They all feast on the bugs, and Ro is the first of them to venture outside. Just like before, this world has one sun and a blue sky, but it has some pretty ugly birds. A ton of plants he has never seen before make it clear that Gabaru is in a new world. The goblins are able to speak, so Gabaru teams up with Gobkichi. Gobkichi is the biggest of the goblin kids, and Gabaru teamed up with him, specifically because he will be most useful when helping him hunt. The two of them work together as Gobkichi chases a unicorn bunny, and Gabaru finishes it off. Gobkichi tries to eat without Gabaru, so Gabaru beats him and makes sure that he knows that they're supposed to share. After demonstrating the nature of their relationship to Gobkichi, Gabaru tries to see if he can use the rabbit's horn as a weapon. Just then, he gets a strange vision that says Gabaru obtained the small creature's horn. Gabaru has no clue what that was, but he moves on as Gobkichi is starving. Gobkichi is overwhelmed with emotion as he eats. He cries and thanks Gabaru for helping him get food. Gabaru would just like for him to eat or cry, but not both. On the 5th day, the two hunt a rabbit again, but this time Gabaru uses the horn as a weapon and determines that it's very useful. Gabaru removes another horn and he once again sees the vision. He ignores it so they can eat, but he then has another vision. This time Gabaru hears a voice and it tells him that he learned the ability called escape. Seeing it another time has confirmed something he suspected. Gabaru then explains to us that in his old world, he was born with the extremely rare ESP ability called absorption. This allowed him to eat pretty much anything, and he would have a chance of gaining the traits of whatever he ate. Luckily, it looks like he still has this ability, but sadly it seems like any other abilities he had in his past life have been reset. As Gabaru amazes Gobkichi by hunting a rabbit, Gabaru thinks about how he's actually extremely lucky that out of all his abilities, absorption was the one he kept. This is because in this world, there are a ton of monsters lurking around with incredible powers. On day 6, some girl goblin named Gobmi is amazed to hear that our boys have been eating horned rabbits. Gabaru didn't think it was a big deal, but Gobmi points out that someone just lost her life after being gored by one of those rabbits. She knows that Gabaru is the one in charge, and she admires him for being smart, cool, and strong. Gobkichi wonders what she thinks about him, but she just thinks he is ordinary. Gabaru offers to let her come on their next hunt, and she agrees. The next day though, it ends up raining, so they postpone the hunt for the day after. Gabaru decides to check the group storage to see if he can make a new weapon. He returns with materials to make a weapon, but he cannot forget what else he saw. In the storage, Gabaru found a group of captive human women. The reason why is pretty obvious, but Gabaru would rather not think about it. The elder that watches them is named Gobji, and he is the man responsible for giving Gabaru his very low effort name. The man is impressed with Gabaru and explains that he might level up faster than the others. Gabaru doesn't understand what he means by levels, so the old geezer tells him to tap his head. Gabaru does, and the voice reveals that Gabaru is currently level 86. Gobji explains that once he reaches level 100, Gabaru will be able to evolve into a more advanced life form. Gobji doubts that he will be able to though, since it's pretty rare. It turns out that goblins age very quickly, so this old geezer is just 20 years old. Gobji explains that the others will be returning soon, so Gabaru will get to see what an evolved hobgoblin looks like. The old goblin lets out a maniacal laugh as he wonders what kind of prey they will be bringing back this time. On day 8, the guys go hunting, and Gobmi joins them. Gabmi is in charge of backup, while Gabiru fights at middle range, and Gabkichi is their forward. Their 3-goblin formation works like a charm, and they're able to hunt larger monsters. The food is delicious, so Gabmi tears up, as she has only been eating nothing but fruit. When Gabiru eats, he gains several traits from the snake, including venom resistance and something called Evil Eye. This is way more than he got from the other animals, so it's clear that this snake was on a whole other level. The others have no clue what he is talking about, and Gabkichi wants to eat the head of the snake too. Unfortunately, he can't since it's poisonous, and the others would die if they ate it. Gabiru is getting used to things now, so he explains that it doesn't matter how ugly he is. He is determined to survive in this world in his second life. Days 9 and 10 were more of the same hunting, but on day 11 they made the mistake of trying to go into a cave. Their teamwork shines once again though, as Gabiru has Gabkichi protect them with the shield, so he can use Evil Eye on the attacking bats. This stuns them so they can win the fight. They feast on the bats, and this gives Gabiru echolocation, along with a couple other bat traits. They feast as always, but we see that some other goblins starve as they watch them. That night, some of the other goblins surround Gabiru as he sleeps, but the clever goblin always has his search ability active. This allows him to sense that the others are trying to attack him, so Gabiru beats up all 6 of them. One of them is hurt more than the others, so Gabiru realizes that he might not have adjusted his venom correctly since he was in a rush. He plans to teach the rest of them a lesson, but Gabmi is even more upset. She starts choking one of them out, so Gabiru tries to calm her down. On day 13, our group takes on a much bigger monster. Gabkichi gets knocked back, so the clever Gabmi disarms the orc. Gabiru breaks its leg and tells the others that he will take it from there, so they watch as Gabiru slaughters it. Feasting on the orc grants Gabiru the ability to use orc language, libido, and something called Detect Analyze. Gabiru is still thinking about when the others attacked him, so after his friends have had their fill of food, Gabiru decides to bring the rest back so everyone else can eat too. The others are skeptical at first, but Gabiru assures them that it's okay. They all thank Gabiru and begin eating good food for the first time. Gabiru stands over them as they eat, and he thinks about how he never would have even considered helping out the helpless in his old world. It's obvious that his appearance changed since coming to this new world, but Gabiru wonders if something else has changed about him as well. As Gabiru sleeps, he has another vision. It mentions something about how his level values have been exceeded, and he has met all the special conditions. We see that it says something about evolving, but Gabiru is too tired to read any of it, so he just swipes yes and goes back to sleep. One last message reads that Gabiru has received the blessing of the Grand God of Demise and Origin. The next morning, Gabiru finds that he looks a lot more like he did in his old life. A look over at Gabkichi reveals that he has evolved as well. Gabmi is in awe of her friends, as she points out that they're a lot bigger and a lot cooler now. Gabji is stunned that they both ranked up already, since it hasn't even been a month since they were born. Gabkichi wants to test out his new strength, so Gabiru assumes that he wants to go hunting. Surprisingly though, Gabkichi wants to test it by fighting Gabiru, and Gabiru actually really likes the idea. The 2 beefed up hobgoblins fight outside, and show that they are much better fighters now. Gabkichi is a bit too slow though, so Gabiru ends up winning the fight easily. Gabkichi is amazed by how strong Gabiru is, but Gabiru explains that Gabkichi hasn't beat when it comes to pure power. Just then, Gabiru senses that trouble is approaching, and he surprises Gabmi when he knows that she is hiding nearby. He reminds her about the crossbow they made the day before, and he instructs her to go get it. We then see what the danger is as a pack of wolves viciously hunt down some rabbits. An orc runs off as it's terrified of them, but it's no use as the wolves easily destroy it as well. Gabiru determines that they are the perfect target to test their evolved strength, so he has Gabmi start off by shooting one of them with an arrow. Gabiru and Gabkichi then jump in to start smacking the wolves around. Gabiru reveals that he used his venom on Gabmi's arrows, and it has allowed them to easily impair the leader of the wolves. Without their leader, the wolves were uncoordinated. Their teamwork was lacking, so Gabiru and his group were able to make quick work of them. One last wolf remains, but it eventually dies as well. Gabiru determines that it's the leader, so he eats it and it gives him some military leadership abilities. Gabiru gives more food to the others, but informs them that they will have to start catching the same amount of prey that they are provided. They fear that they won't be able to do it, so they beg Gabiru to teach them how to hunt. Gabiru agrees to show them, and they're all even more grateful when he says that he will teach them how to make weapons as well. Gabiru says that it's not a big deal as they are all comrades, and they all begin to cheer his name. Gabiru isn't sure why, but in this moment he feels like he can see the path that he will be taking in this new world. He will eat non-stop to become stronger. He will then lead his comrades to achieve his real goal that puts a smile on his face. 4 days later, Gabiru laments how his comrades still have a lot to learn. They train hard, and Gabiru is shocked when he accidentally walks in on Gabmi. On day 17, all the human women that were captive took their own life, and Gabiru had a quiet memorial for them with Gabji. We then move on to day 24, and Gabiru is training the other goblins. In the meantime, he had also been eating every promising enemy he could find, and learned a lot of new abilities. Just then, another group of goblins begins approaching. Gabiru prepares to protect everyone against them, but Gabji stops him and explains that they are their raiders. Gabiru is then shocked to hear that they are also the fathers of Gabiru's generation of goblins. The raiders have captured another group of human women, and the evil goblins are glad since their last batch took their own lives. It turns out that goblin DNA is so strong that when they mate with other species, it still results in goblin children. Gabiru can understand the instinct to reproduce, but that doesn't mean he's okay with what's going on. He requests that he be the one to look after the human women, but this just upsets the raiders. Gabiru's generation of goblins is ready to stand up for him, but this just begins to divide the two groups. Just then, 2 goblin girls arrive to casually tell the two sides to stop getting themselves into a civil war. They are Hubsato and the mage Habse. These genius girls come up with the brilliant idea to have the leaders of both generations fight, and the winner decides what the village will do from now on. The raider wants to teach Gabiru a lesson, and Gabiru agrees to fight as well. The fight ends very quickly as Gabiru uses some kind of mysterious string. The others can't understand how he did it, so Gabiru explains that it just comes out of his body. He then thinks about how it's an ability he learned that allows him to produce spider silk, and he learned it after eating a demon spider. The girls are amazed that someone like him was born while they were gone, and Gabiru announces his new official status as leader of the village. He asks if anyone has a problem with that, but no one decides to stand up against him. Gabiru then tells the humans that he ordered everyone to keep their hands off of them. He won't do anything either, and they will find the time to send them back to a human village. The girls wonder if they will have to do anything, and we learn that Gabiru wasn't being completely selfless with his actions. He wants the knowledge of the humans. Gabiru asks them some questions, and learns that these girls were part of a traveling business when the goblins attacked them. All the men were slaughtered, and these 5 girls were the only survivors. On day 28, Gabiru is surprised to see that the girls seem happy. He realizes that they haven't gotten over everything, they're just having a positive attitude since it will make things easier. Gabiru cooked for them, hoping that it would help. Among the girls are 2 sisters that are cooks as well as tailors. The one with glasses is an alchemist, and the absent-minded girl is an appraiser and a smith. As for the redhead, she is a rookie warrior, so he decides to have her join their training later. Gabiru then trained everyone hard and insulted them when they got tired. For the next few days, he focused on group exercises instead of hunting, and he beat into them the new rules he set for the group. Day 31 was rainy, so Gabiru and Gabkichi did some really intense sparring as everyone watched in amazement. That night, Gabiru sensed that a group of goblins were about to break his rule regarding the human women. Gabiru sliced right through one of the goblins and restrained the others. He reminds them of the rules he set and punishes one of them for talking back to him. Gabiru apologizes to the women, and the redhead cries in his arms. The other goblins arrive, so Gabiru instructs Gabkichi to take the restrained goblins outside. He also has Gabmi gather the other goblins so they can watch what he's about to do. Outside, Gabiru sends a message to the others by using these guys as an example. He beats them relentlessly and makes sure that everyone really understands their village rules. Everyone gets the message loud and clear, so Gabiru dismisses them. Gabiru stopped just short of ending their lives, which meant that Hobkin, who got the worst of the punishment, passed away the next morning. On day 32, Gabiru's team uses their amazing teamwork once again to take down a Trihorn horse. It was pretty tough, but this just meant that he also received a ton of new abilities. Tri-Burst is one of them, and it amazingly allows him to deal 3 blows with just 1 strike. That night, the redhead goes to sleep in Gabiru's bed, and he realizes that the incident from the night before must have traumatized her. Gabiru comforts her and allows her to spend the night with him. However, when he wakes up, Gabiru finds that Gobmi joined them as well. That day, they also find that the female goblin named Gabi evolved into a hobgoblin as well. Overall, things have been going pretty smoothly. Gobmi runs the ranged unit, and Gobchi is in charge of their armed forces. Hobsato handles the mobility-oriented force, and Gabi has taken over rear support, which focuses on doing chores. Hobse would act as the captain of their mage force, but right now she is the only mage in their village. For the rest of this day, Gabiru leaves the training to the captains, so he could head deep into the forest to hunt a variety of prey. Gabiru tries out some demise magic, and is shocked to see just how powerful it is, as he easily destroys one of the powerful Trihorns with one attack. Gabiru only realized after this that the magic made him overconfident as he went into the northern forest. There he finds a strange area with a ton of blood, and he remembers something that Gobchi told all the goblins. Gobchi warned them to never go into the northern forest for any reason. Inside there is a terrifying crimson monster called the Red Bear. This is where Gabiru finds himself now, and he sees that this monster easily tore through a Trihorn. The Trihorn's armor was incredibly difficult for them to pierce earlier, but it was nothing for this bear. Just then, the Red Bear appears, and Gabiru acknowledges that a normal person would probably try to run away. Gabiru is not a normal person though. He wants to fight it, beat it, and eat it to see what kind of abilities he will get. Gabiru plans to use every weapon in his arsenal, so he starts off by using Phase 1 Demise Magic. Back at the village, Gabi becomes concerned as she hasn't seen Gabiru in a while. The others haven't seen him either, so this just makes her more worried. Back with Gabiru, he is shocked when the Red Bear sacrifices his right arm to defend against his Demise spell. The bear unleashes a flurry of attacks, and Gabiru can tell that the refined skill armor he received from the Trihorn won't be able to protect him. Gabiru must go on the offensive, so he goes to attack the bear's head. He is once again shocked though when his weapon isn't able to pierce its skull, and the bear sends him flying. Gabiru covers the bear in string, but it breaks free and shockingly uses a crazy strong fire breath attack. The forest is covered in fire, and Gabiru must heal his wounds. The attack was very concerning, since Gabiru had never seen or even heard of a fire-breathing bear in his past life. This is a very dangerous opponent, so Gabiru realizes that he will just have to be willing to take some damage to win. Gabiru moves in for another attack and protects himself from the fire breath. The beast is pretty tough on the outside, but Gabiru cleverly uses the fire breath attack against the bear, and he pierces it right through its mouth. Gabiru is pleased with himself, but he is shocked to find that it wasn't enough. The ferocious bear knocks him back, and Gabiru does his best to limit the damage he takes. Gabiru still took a lot of damage from the incredibly powerful attack, so he concedes that this round was a draw. His blade is still inside the bear's mouth, so at least it won't be able to use its fire breath anymore. This crazy strong bear still shows no sign of collapsing, but Gabiru is just one attack away from losing his life. Gabiru is at a huge disadvantage, but this guy is crazy as he proclaims that it will just make his meal taste even better. Gabiru goes in for more fighting and manages to deal some damage. It's not enough, so he tells the bear that he wants to eat him already, and he moves in for another attack, but we see that he loses an arm. On day 34, Gabiru has finally won the crazy battle, but he barely survived. Gabiru finally gets to eat the bear, and he receives a ton of powerful traits. Among them are heavy damage and overpowering strength. Gabiru passes out soon after, but we once again see that he has exceeded his level values and met all conditions. This now allows him to evolve into a rare ogre species. His conscience is fading away, so Gabiru simply selects yes without reading. On day 35, Gabiru continues to eat the bear and gains even more incredibly powerful traits. He reaches for his knife, which seems much smaller than before, and Gabiru is shocked to realize that he has become an ogre. Gabiru returns to the village, but everyone is terrified of him, and they fear that they are under attack. They prepare to run as they wonder why the ogre is smiling at them, and they wish that Gabiru was there to save them. Luckily, Gobmi recognizes him, but instead of being surprised by his evolution, she is mad at him for being gone for so long. She just ends up hurting herself, but she still scolds Gabiru. She is upset that he lost his arm, but the others are all amazed that he took down the Red Bear. Gobji is most shocked of all, as he points out that Gabiru was able to defeat the Master of the Northern Woods just 1 month after he was born. Everyone had questions for him, but Gabiru was just glad that he survived and was able to make it to his new home in his new world. Sometime later, everyone is still amazed by Gabiru's evolution, as he has gotten much bigger and stronger looking. Gabiru goes to check on the human women, but he is followed closely by Gabmi and the redhead for some reason. As expected, the humans are terrified of him, but he manages to calm them down by explaining that it's him. Gabmi though seems upset about something as she pinches his leg. The blacksmith is disappointed to see that he wrecked the axe that she made him, but reveals that she has made her knife using a special spirit stone. Gabiru praises her, but finds that the other girls have started to pinch him even harder. The twins need help with their cooking duties, so Gabiru explains that he will assign a few goblins to help them out. Gabiru is impressed that they have gotten used to being around goblins so quickly, so he tells them that they would make great wives. He wonders if they want to be his wives, and they call him a sly dog. Gabiru is pleased by their smile, but once again the redhead and Gabmi get more upset. Gabiru then finds that the alchemist has made poison. Originally it was for self-defense, but now that there is a goblin she can trust like Gabiru, she has no use for it. Gabiru picks her up and admires her smile as well, but he can instantly feel the murderous intent coming from the other girls. Gabiru spent all his time cheering up the girls, but now his spirit is exhausted. On day 36, Gabiru realized that he can no longer train with the others. He has become so powerful that regular goblins were ending up in critical condition from even his lightest punches. Even Gabkichi's armor couldn't withstand them. As Gabiru heals a near-dead goblin, he wonders what's wrong with Gabkichi. Gabkichi says it's nothing as he goes to hunt, but Gabiru can tell that something's wrong. Aside from that, Gabiru has started to notice that Hapsado and Gabmi have started hunting together. The red-headed woman is training by herself, and Gabi is continuing her hobby of mining for spirit stones. As for Gabiru, we see that he can still use his missing arm like it's slime, thanks to the fact that he ate a slime before. Gabiru wonders if Gabkichi will be okay, but Hapsi points out that it depends on how much effort Gabkichi puts in. The two argue as Gabiru wishes Hapsi would give him back his book, and he thinks about how he was finally able to have a relaxing day. On day 37, Gabi panics as she found some little creature in really bad shape. Gabiru does his best to heal her, but she's losing too much blood, so he decides that he will have to get some blood-producing medicine from the alchemist. Luckily it works, so they explain who they are to the thing they call a carbuncle. The carbuncle introduces herself as Litana and reveals that she was attacked by humans. The gem on her head is a high-class material, so its price is said to be as high as 1 billion gold. Litana asks that they lend her their power and begs them to get rid of the humans that attacked her. Gabiru is familiar with the history of the carbuncles. Their master named Velvet was a famous legendary magician, and he created them to watch over his secret treasure den. Litana explains that when she was attacked, her core was broken, so her lifespan was shortened. In the secret treasure room lies legendary class items that Velvet collected throughout his entire life. Litana explains that her master hates humans. He would prefer that the goblins take all the treasure rather than the adventurer humans. They can have everything, so Gabiru declares that they will go. The blacksmith girl gives him his new dagger, but he tells the frightened girls not to worry, as he won't blatantly eliminate the humans. His job is just to get them to leave, but warns that he might have to use some force if they don't listen. They then go through the hole Gabi made as it's the way to the treasure room. Gabiru decides to try to persuade the humans to leave, so he tells the others to hide. He finds the adventurers who are searching for their treasure room, but they think that he is just another monster that they need to defeat. They attack him but are quickly shocked when he is able to detect the presence of their invisible assassin. Gabiru explains to them that this is someone's house, and what they are doing is robbery and murder. It's clear that they don't have any guilt either, so Gabiru determines that they are beyond saving. The stupid humans are just shocked that an ogre can speak English so well, and Gabiru says that luckily for them, he also has a good heart. They refuse to listen as they attack him instead, but Gabiru just easily dodges it all and once again tells them to leave. They don't listen, so Gabiru analyzes the situation. The humans have 3 in their backline that are using a lot of high-class magic items. Unfortunately for them, it's pretty clear to Gabiru that they are relying too much on level enhancement to increase their fighting strength. This doesn't do much for them since their fighting technique itself is pitiful, and Gabiru is easily able to beat them up. Just then, one mage celebrates as he thinks he just blew Gabiru's head off. They are of course shocked though when it becomes clear that his attack just angered Gabiru. He has allowed them to live up to this point, but Gabiru is done being nice. The humans wet themselves as they realize that their level 3 magic spell did nothing. Gabiru declares that the time for being nice is over. He signals to the others to attack, and they spring into action. Gabru takes out his blade and tells the humans to regret not leaving when he gave him the chance. Afterwards, Gabru reveals that they eliminated the adventurers and ate them. This gives Gabru a bunch of their traits, including Assassin, High Wizard, and Enchanter. That isn't all though, as there were some pretty high level adventurers among them, and they had some pretty good loot. There is a rare ring, an item storage bag with a bunch of items in it, so Gabru just eats those too. Among other things, this allows Gabru to summon a cheat item box that can store an incredible amount of items. They then head to the treasure room where Latana thanks them. She explains that her master Velvet is great with spirits, which is why a ton of spirit stones can be mined there. She wishes good health to Gabru as they say goodbye, and she vanishes. It's a pretty sad moment, so Gabru just eats the gem from her head that she left behind. The slick Gabkichi wonders if Gabi is okay, and she says that she is fine. They have a moment of silence for Latana, and afterwards Gabru decides that they will take all the treasure and split it amongst themselves. Gabru marvels at his item box because it still has a lot of space even after shoving all the treasure into it. Gabru doesn't like the idea of just leaving Velvet's body there, so he cremates it. Surprisingly, this leaves some kind of gauntlet. Gabru tries it on and is stunned when this thing attaches itself to him and becomes his new arm. The others are amazed to see it, and Gabru shows what it can do as it feels just like his own arm. When they leave, Gabru decides to have a party to celebrate the successful mission. On day 38, Gabru appraises all the loot they got with the blacksmith and finds that everything is insanely rare and powerful. On day 39, Gabru explains that he gave the 10 hobgoblins in their group some magical items. As for himself, Gabru chose to take the Vermilion Spear. That, along with 2 other items he chose, means that he now has 3 legendary class artifacts. Legendary class is second only to Phantasm class in item ranks, and it is said that the holder can rule entire countries with just one of them. Later that day, they go hunt for ingredients for some bear soup, and Gabru's glad to see how strong everyone is getting. On day 40, Gabru decided to have a tournament to see who would be the leader of the hobgoblins, not including himself. He also established a mercenary group. On day 41, Gabru goes in search of monsters he has never seen before. The first one he found was a golden spider that dropped some valuable looking items. Eating them allows him to now make gold string that he is sure he will be able to make accessories out of. The next animal was some red deer, but eating just one of them didn't give him any traits. Further exploring leads Gabru to a great tree. He explains that in this world there exists a species called dryads. According to Gabji, they tempt males from other intelligent species and use them as their own nutrition. Dryads are only females, and they are so beautiful that men are unable to hold back after looking at them. The reason Gabru is explaining this is because one of these dryads has appeared before him. She admires Gabru's huge muscles and tells him that she would just like to talk. Gabru struggles to control himself in the face of her charm, but he must, otherwise she will use him as nutrition. He has to avoid that at all costs, and he can't let his guard down. Gabru decides that he must use the ability he has never used before called Libido. After taking 5 hours to eat the dryad, Gabru earns a trait called Dryad's Blessing. The dryad is still alive somehow, so she tells Gabru to return soon, but he just says that he will if he feels like it. Afterwards, Gabru takes a bath in the lake and is soon surrounded by lizard men. He declares that today he is invincible, so Gabru makes quick work of them, and even takes out another monster for good measure. On day 42, Gabru finds that 2 goblins have an aptitude for magic. They immediately become part of Hobsei's platoon, but her devious looking smile worries Gabru. Later that day, Gabru learns how to enchant his weapon, but this seems to upset the blacksmith girl. On day 43, Gami is angry at her boy, but no one explains to him why, and they just tell him to use his head. The redhead is just as angry, and the twin cooks seem upset as well, as they try to feed him poisoned food. The alchemist is surprised that someone as perceptive as Gabru hasn't noticed, and reveals that the girls are upset because they are jealous. They know that he had a date with someone, and he is shocked to hear that he has kiss marks on his neck. Gabru had no idea, and he curses the dryad for doing it on purpose. Gabru tries to think about his next course of action, but he is shocked when the alchemist reveals that she feels the same way and gives him a kiss. She hopes that he accepts her feelings, but Gabru didn't expect this at all from her. He thinks about how it does make him happy, but Gami arrives furious. She wants Gabru to treat her the same way, and all the human girls arrive to say the same thing. Outside the room, Gabi explains that Gabru has sealed it off so they can take care of some work, and Gabru earns a lot more traits. Sometime later, Gabiru senses that someone is approaching and finds that it's a group of noble elves. Humans are about to attack them to get their treasure, so they have come to ask for the goblins' help. This elf guy has a bad attitude, but they are offering to give them an entire couple months of food for their village. Gabji thinks it's a good offer, but Gabiru surprisingly refuses. He doesn't care about the situation, he just wants them to be more sincere when asking for help. The guy prepares to attack Gabiru, but Gabiru strikes fear into their very souls with one terrifying glare. Gabiru then warns him to tell his hidden archers to lower their bows. They try to shoot him instead, but they have no chance of hurting Gabiru. The elf has them stop attacking, and Gabiru explains that he's rejecting his offer because he's simply not in a good mood. However, the goblins live in this forest as well. If the humans are going to cause problems, then he wouldn't be against teaming up. Gabiru then amazes everyone as he uses his legendary weapon to threaten all the elves at once. Gabiru doesn't even really understand fully how it works, but if he stabs something with it, he's able to produce a limitless amount of spears that can extend 100 meters out. The elves run away terrified, so Gabiru hopes he doesn't see them again for a while. On day 45, Gabiru hunts down 20 gray slime. Eating their cores gives him a bunch of abilities, including fluid regeneration and auto-replication. Gabiru gives auto-replication a try and finds that he can create a tiny version of himself from his blood. He can even see himself from this thing, which means that they have linked senses. This gives our boy Gabiru a brilliant idea. On day 46, he has the girls make some clothing with his blood in the lining. This way, the clothes can serve as a transmitter in case they are ever in danger. On day 47, one of Gabiru's mini scouts finds that the elves didn't learn their lesson as they have returned. This time, Gabiru just lets out a loud roar from within the cave, and the elves are terrified as they can't even move. Gabiru doesn't even say a word when he emerges and simply captures them. The elf leader explains that Gabiru's lack of respect wounded his pride, and this has earned Gabiru more than one death. The other elves, however, apologize for not being able to stop their boss. Gabiru has come to a decision, but it's a harsh one. Their boss can already be considered dead, but the rest of them will have a chance to survive. Gabiru will have them face the goblins in a mock fight, and the elves that win will live. Gabiru's choice is a fair one, as he declares that if they want to survive, then they will have to fight with everything they have. In the end, out of the 23 elves, 6 of them were defeated. The 6 were all men, but Gabiru admits to himself that he tweaked the fights because he doesn't like seeing women get eliminated. Gabiru then snacks on the losers, and he gets a lot more abilities. Gabiru then reveals to the survivors that they are now prisoners. They thought they would be set free, but Gabiru reminds them that they still try to eliminate the goblins. Gabji thinks that the elf prisoners will be a lot of fun, but Gabiru reminds him that there are rules against touching prisoners. Gabji vows to listen to his leader, but still begs as he is desperate. Gabiru then goes to give the final punishment to the leader of the elf unit. On day 48, we see that Gabkichi reaches level 100. On day 49, everyone is amazed to see that Gabkichi has evolved into a special variant. His dark red color is the result of a blessing from the demigod of flame, and his iron-hard skin is a blessing from the demigod of war. Gabkichi explains that Gabiru hasn't had someone to spar with since he became an ogre, and Gabkichi was worried that he would never catch up to him. Gabkichi is different now though, so they spar outside. Gabiru still dominates the fight, but Gabkichi is surprisingly able to hold his own. Gabiru eventually wins the fight, but the match proved to him that Gabkichi really is his rival. That night, Gabiru was exhausted, and he was met by a strange figure. This thing apologizes for some reason, and gives Gabiru a gift as it's the least it can do. Gabiru wakes up, but has no clue what just happened. On day 51, Gabiru wonders if Gabkichi inspired the others, because they have 4 new hobgoblins. One is even suited to be a mage, and another will be a cleric. The cleric's name is Gabji, and he promises to heal as many people as possible. Hobse has evolved as well, growing into the Lord family as a half spell lord. Spell lords don't usually have markings like the one on her arms, and Gabiru notices that they look like the ones on his body. Hobse is overflowing with mana, so she wants to test her strength outside. She demonstrates her immense power with an incredible fire attack, and explains that she can do another 20 of those at least. This is pretty incredible, but what's more surprising is that she is only a half spellord right now, and she will likely evolve into a full spellord next time. Gabiru gives her some new gear to match her evolution, and she tells the jealous Hubsado that she will catch up soon enough. Gabru realizes that evolutions have been happening pretty frequently, and he suspects that he is the reason why. A goblin's environment during their first month of life has a major effect on their rate of growth. It's pretty great to have everyone getting stronger, but Gabru admits that not everyone in the village is so lucky. On day 52, the older generation of goblins expressed their displeasure. They have been trying their best to hang in there, but they are being left behind by all the young goblins. They have decided to leave the village, and they are shocked when Gabru decides not to end their lives for betraying him. Gabru explains that they aren't stealing anything, so it's their choice if they want to leave. What's even more surprising is that Gabru gives them a parting gift. It's a magical knife made of mithril with an incredibly sharp edge. On day 53, Gabru finds a human that had his life taken by an orc. There was no hope left for him, but after Gabru ate him, he found that he had a very interesting ability. He hopes that using it well will be a way to honor the guy. This ability is called Monster Tamer. That night, Gabru is happier than ever when the alchemist reveals that she was able to make booze. On day 54, Gabru announces that the previous generation of goblins has left the village, and he offers to allow anyone else to join them. No one else wants to leave, so they have a toast. On day 55, the genius Gabru worked on producing earrings with his blood in them so they could serve as communication devices. On day 56, Gabru found that they worked perfectly, so he made enough for everyone. On day 57, Gabi took down a Trihorn, and Gabru tested out his Monster Tamer ability that he got from the human. It worked perfectly, and the Trihorn became their first familiar. On day 55, we find that Gabru now also has a Grey Bear familiar. The head of a black wolf pack became his pet and bodyguard for the human women. On day 59, Gabru experienced an incredible shock. The red-headed girl, who was really weak at first, has grown into a powerful warrior. While they are eating, Gabru gets surprised when she finds that she just got a new job. Moments later, she shows off her new hunting prowess, and Gabru explains that her new job is Shadow Soldier. She now needs to periodically eat monsters or she will die. However, it results in some astonishing growth. Later, Gabru is told that humans have been attacking goblins roaming the forest, so he realizes that it's nearly time for the war between them and the humans. On day 60, Gabru senses that kobolds are being chased by something that he can't even detect with his search ability. When the kobolds make it to the cave, they find that the pursuers are magically animated skeletons. Gabmi's archers try to shoot them down, but their arrows do nothing to them. There are an incredible amount of skeletons, so Gabkichi fears that things are going to get really bad. Gabru's search ability allows him to see one large signal behind all the skeletons, which is likely the one thing creating them. The others try to fight off the skeletons, and one of Hapsado's attacks makes Gabru realize something. Cutting the skeletons doesn't work, but smashing them apart is incredibly effective. Everyone puts down their weapons, and they start bashing all their opponents. There are still too many of these things, so Gabru decides that he will have to put an end to the battle. He begins a countdown in his head as he makes his way through the skeleton army. He ends up finishing 3 seconds early, but he manages to crush the monster that was creating all the skeletons. Eating this thing gives him the ability to summon lower undead and high-tier equipment materialization, among other things. Afterwards, the kobolds apologize for their mistake. They accidentally dug into Velvet's treasury, which the goblins invaded earlier, and they awakened its guardian, the Greater Skeleton. In a last-ditch effort to survive, they ran to the cave that belongs to Gabru, who has become known as the terrifying Black Ogre. These kobolds now call Gabru their lord, but Gabru points out that he has eliminated plenty of their kind. They are incredibly grateful for him saving them though, and they understand that the strong devouring the weak is just natural law. They owe their lives to him, so they declare that what happens to them from now on is totally up to Gabru. Gabru understands and has their wounds looked at by their cleric. Gabru then takes a look around at everyone in his cave. He has no idea how it happened, but he has gathered a pretty interesting crowd. On day 61, Gabru goes hunting with Gabkichi, and they catch sight of 12 armed human soldiers. They follow them, and Gabru uses his ability to eavesdrop on them. He learns that the humans are trying to kidnap the daughter of the elvish chief. Furthermore, one of the elves tipped them off. The chief's daughter returns from a festival, so the humans begin their attack. They eliminate a bunch of her guards and capture her. Gabru would feel bad just letting her be taken away, so he rescues the girl and takes the humans prisoner. On day 62, he learned that the human army would make their move in 20 days. Gabru ate all 12 humans and earned a ton of abilities. When the elf girl wakes up, she is terrified of Gabru. He notices that she has wings, which is uncommon for elves. Gabru tries to calm her down, but she freaks out as she assumes that he's going to do terrible things to her. She eventually relaxes a bit after drinking some calming tea, but she gets upset when Gabru reveals that he couldn't save her guards. She blames him for just watching them get attacked, but he explains that the human and elf war is none of his business. He reveals that there is a traitor among the elves, so she should be more upset about that. She sobs uncontrollably, so Gabru just tells her to get some rest before they take her home. That night, Gabru has to remind the old guy to keep his hands to himself. On day 63, they take the elf home. She explains that wings are something only high elves have, but they usually hide them inside their bodies. They are not meant to be shown to others, but she is so inexperienced with them that they pop out sometimes. When they arrive at the elf village, Gabru detects that 25 archers are aiming right at him with mithril arrowheads. Luckily, the chief's daughter explains that the ogre saved her life. The chief thanks them for saving his daughter, but Gabru explains that he didn't do it out of goodwill. He wants a reward and thinks about how he's letting the chief display what his kind means to him. So this will give Gabru a chance to get a grasp on the chief's judgment. Gabru's reward is something called a fail knot. It's a family treasure and magical item. The daughter is shocked that he would give this away, but the chief explains that it's a small price to pay for her safety. Gabru is pleased with this, so in return he offers to give the elves information about the human army's movements. The two groups are now on good terms, and the elves gave the goblins a ton of mithril equipment. The chief wonders if they know anything about a group of their elite fighters that have gone missing, but Gabru just pretends that he has no information on them. The chief even gives Gabru some good liquor as a gift, so Gabru vows to help them whenever they need. That night, Gabru can't believe how delicious their alcohol is. On day 64, Gabru is shocked to find that Gobmi has ranked up into a Dhampir variant. On top of that, they have 8 new hobgoblins. Gobmi now has some new abilities as well. The god of ice has given her the ability to create and manipulate large amounts of ice. Her evil eyes ability can charm enemies into fighting amongst themselves. Gabru seems to recognize her appearance, but he isn't sure why. Gabi has also evolved, and she is now a half Earth Lord. Earth Lords have the ability to manipulate the ground. She can also make her body stronger, and can use lightning magic to detect gems. As for Habsado, she evolved into a half Bloody Lord. They have the ability to control blood and make it into weapons. Also, all these evolved goblins have tattoos for some reason, and they're all in different locations. They say the tattoos give them power, so Gabru hopes to learn more about them. Because of all their evolutions, Gabji decides to give them all new names. We then get a look at a chart which ranks the races in terms of power. Ogres rank 5th, behind the Dhampirs and the Lords. Oguru knows that the elves will turn to them for help when their battle against the humans begins. He determined that they need as many assets as they can get, so he gave out communication earrings to new comrades. The elf girls they have captive refuse to wear them, as it's extremely taboo for elves to decorate their ears. However, Oguru took some time to change their minds. Oguru then had these new comrades join them during training. He then used his summon lower undead ability. He summoned skeletons so they could do some practical sparring. Oguru made some changes and summoned them with some armor. The more armor a skeleton has, the higher quality it tends to be. The elves struggled and lost most of their matches, but Oguru was still pleased as the group is building trust. On day 65, Oguru has learned that if he uses less mana, he's able to create regular skeletons, zombies, and other undead. He wondered what they would taste like, but he found he couldn't eat them. They are good for practicing though, and for gaining experience. They are purified in seconds during the daylight, so not being able to use them during the day is a drag. Oguru's group now has over 100 members. The kobolds are in a pretty low position, so they will have to work harder than everyone else. After a fight, Oguru worries that Gobfu might be eating too much rotten meat, but she thinks it's the best. On day 66, Oguru had Earthy close the exit to the cave where the skeletons were coming out of. He also had the kobolds do some hunting, with the goal of getting more wolf familiars. The kobolds worked faster than he expected, so they were able to collect 20 wolves. On their way home, they encountered a powerful boar, and Earthy destroys it. Later, the forge girl reveals that she upgraded the axe that Oguru damaged while fighting the red bear. The entire thing was modified with an alloy of spirit stone, iron, and mithril. Oguru is impressed, and the smith girl reveals that she was able to upgrade into an elemental smith. On day 67, Ogre Kichi reveals that he has always had a crush on Earthy. Oguru surprisingly already knew, so Ogre Kichi explains that he needs help as he doesn't know what to do. Oguru then comes up with a plan for him. He wants Ogre Kichi to do something that night, and he hopes to hear good news in the morning. That night, Ogre Kichi tells Earthy how he feels, and she seems to take it well. The next morning, Ogre Kichi feels really light on his feet and stronger than ever before during a match against Oguru. Ogre Kichi's managing to land more attacks than usual, but Oguru is glad that things went well for his buddy. It turns out that Earthy talked to Dami about it the day before, so Oguru and Dami sets the stage for them. Ogre Kichi has been so strong and full of energy that Oguru had to replace himself with a black skeleton in their sparring match. After training, Oguru's usual group went hunting. They found a lot of insect monsters that he has never seen before, so Oguru gained even more abilities. The most interesting of them was called Exoskeleton. Oguru used it and was shocked to find that he had become like one of those transforming superheroes. This new exoskeleton is extremely durable. It has the ability to repair itself and disperse impacts. It's a little too flashy for Oguru's liking, but Dami thinks it looks cool. Oguru tries to change back to his old clothes, but he just ends up being in his birthday suit. It turns out that his normal clothes were used to create the exoskeleton. It's a shame as he really liked his outfit since it was made from the red bear's pelt. Oguru then finds that this exoskeleton ability is even more amazing as it allows him to register 5 forms. One form used the red bear, so he can register 4 others. Oguru gave it some thought and decided that he wants forms for air and sea battles. So to start, he registers 1 form from the insects so he could sprout wings and fly. It's pretty difficult to control though, so he would need some practice. It's raining pretty hard on day 69, so the redhead wants Oguru to spar with her. She has been making steady progress, so she has been asking for more training lately. Oguru then thinks about how she used to seem like a puppy before, but now she seems more like a grown Doberman. As for the smith girl, she has been meeting with the elves regularly, so they can brainstorm ideas for new weapons. She is working on developing a repeating crossbow, but tests have gone so well that Oguru has asked her to move on to manufacturing them. Oguru then gave her some more materials in the hopes that she could make a new weapon for him. The chef sisters have also received a new title called head chef. Oguru had them try and recreate dishes from his past life, like potato chips. After that, Oguru had a meeting with the alchemist about manufacturing magical items. She reveals an item she created from the black skeleton bones. It's a bone nail that has the ability to freeze whoever struck with it in place. The other girls catch Oguru hugging the alchemist, but he doesn't elaborate on what happens next. On day 70, some elves arrive on behalf of the chief elf. These elves pass by their old comrades on the way in, but Oguru's earrings had a disguise effect that made them appear to be dark elves. The elf kid reveals that the humans are making their move. The elves won't be able to handle them on their own, so they need Oguru's assistance. Price is of no concern to them, as the chief just wants the enemy eliminated completely. However, their contract will be considered void if Oguru retreats. Oguru accepts the job, but explains that they will do it in his terms. Oguru instructs the kid to give the elf chief a bracelet so they can communicate. Information is a crucial weapon, and Oguru already has his blood minis covering the woods. Oguru gathers everyone and declares that it's time to put everything they have been working on to use. Starting on this day, they will become a mercenary company. They are now a professional force of fighters, and everyone likes the idea. Oguru decides that they will be called the Parabellum Mercenary Company. He tells everyone to prepare for battle as it's time for their first job, and they all start chanting Parabellum. On day 71, Oguru's Parabellum Company does their first job. They have a total of 36 members, and with Spellsay Sorcery, their familiars can join them for a total number of 73. They deployed early in the morning based on information gathered by one of Oguru's minis. A barrier surrounds the human army base, but Oguru uses an attribute on his silver arm to destroy it. Once the barrier is down, Earthy uses her earth controlling ability to close off any escape routes for the humans. Dami and Spellsay then take point on a coordinated magical barrage. Oguru summons a horde of skeletons and follows up with some spears for good measure. However, he is impressed to find that all this isn't enough to eliminate the humans. Some Lady Knight is leading their defense, so Oguru introduces himself with a roar. The humans can tell that the Black Ogre is controlling the undead, so the Lady Knight declares that they will strike him down together. The human mage starts the attack, and Oguru is impressed when the Lady Knight buffs her speed. He commends her ability to assess the situation, and compliments the mana she covers herself in. Even her strategy to gouge his heart out is a good one. However, it's not good enough, as Oguru just pushes her back. Oguru then announces that he likes what he is seeing, so they all get to live as his prisoners. The Lady Knight refuses to listen, and she just wants to end his life. Oguru compliments her, but she says that if he wants her as his prisoner, then he will have to demonstrate his strength. If she is defeated, then he can do as he wishes. Oguru tells his group to eliminate everyone, except for the Lady Knight, the Sorcerer, the Priestess, and the Flaming Swordswoman. They are to be taken alive, but the rest can be eliminated and eaten. Oguru then explains to us that what happened next was a one-sided slaughter. Dami's charmed evil eyes caused a bunch of human soldiers to fight each other over her, and Ogekichi overpowered others. Blood Sato used her ability to turn blood into weapons, and Earthy followed up with her ability. Ultimately, they were able to defeat the enemy without a single loss. However, the Lady Knight did manage to reach Oguru just once. Her attack is hardly doing any damage to him, but just reaching him was impressive enough. Just then, the human mage prepares an attack and begs for the Lady Knight to get away. Spellsay can tell that the mage's attack is a 5-level spell, and she fears that Oguru might not be able to withstand it. What makes it even worse is that the Lady Knight is sacrificing herself to make sure that Oguru is hit by the magic attack. The human mage apologizes as he can't hold back any longer, and he releases it. However, Oguru declares that he has won, as he does not intend on letting the Lady Knight die. The Lady Knight then watches in amazement as Oguru skillfully creates a magical shield. Spellsay is also in awe of Oguru, as this shield required him to combine 3rd level demise magic, a vacuum shield from his silver arm, and a few other abilities. Oguru had to use quite a bit, but he managed to stop the dragon spell attack. It's a complete victory for Oguru's group, and he declares that taking so many powerful fighters prisoner is a big deal. Oguru has a feast and gains an insane amount of abilities. Afterwards, the elves celebrate the victory. Oguru goes to see the new prisoners, but they're not doing so well. On day 72, Oguru explains that with his earrings in place, the humans couldn't lie or hide things anymore, so they obtained a lot of information. The elder elf requested this information and offered to pay in alcohol, so of course Oguru accepted. Using the item Oguru sent him, Oguru was able to pass on the information he received from the prisoners. This included the hidden routes the humans were using to ambush them next. The humans are planning to use their immense numbers to suppress the elves from different directions. Using this knowledge, Oguru's group went around the routes, laid out some traps, and waited in a trench. The human troops are led by fully armored knights, and there are about 500 of them. On top of that, there is also 100 wizards. Oguru explains that it would be a long, hard battle if the elves fought them head on. However, for Oguru and his group, this was pretty much just target practice. Oguru commenced the attack, so his company closed off escape routes and used boulders to drop their numbers. They went from 500 knights to 300 in an instant. Pit traps and arrows dwindled this number down till there were less than 100 knights left. Oguru is then impressed when the commanding knight tells his troops to build a wall with anything they can find. This caused the fight to be at a stalemate, so Oguru sent Ogekichi to fight their commander. The humans of course fought back, but Oguru sent in enough warriors to make sure every knight was eliminated. The only question Oguru has is if Ogekichi will be able to hold himself back. Ogekichi starts destroying the commander, and the commander can tell that everything about Ogekichi is crazy. Oguru credits the commander for fighting back so well, but Ogekichi eventually wins. Just like last time, Oguru has a feast and gains a bunch of abilities. Ogekichi points out that the commander reminded him of Oguru, but Oguru doesn't see it. Just then, Dami comes out of nowhere and reveals that she wants to bear Oguru's child. On day 74, the night prisoners considers being captured alive to be more humiliating than death. Their commander tells them to calm down though, since they have food and a place to sleep, so it's not that bad. The knights point out that he is from a commoner background, so he wouldn't understand, and this whole prisoner thing is a disgrace to nobles like them. Later, Oguru has the commander tell him why the humans are attacking the elves. It turns out that the cause of this whole mess stems from a princess coming down with a rare disease that is fatal in 99% of cases. She is betrothed to a king of another empire, so he decreed that a cure must be found. The humans then found out about the elves' secret medicine made with the blessing of the demigod of the forests. The start of this war all boils down to human greed. Later, Earthy is shocked when something happens during a mining session. Everyone wonders if they have come under attack, but it turns out that the water just created a hot spring. Oguru excitedly tells everyone that it boosts their healing ability and clears any status ailments. Aside from that, it's also great for the skin. Everyone then enjoys all the benefits of their new bath, and Oguru credits Earthy for digging it up. On day 75, Oguru had some concerns, so he thought of a new training strategy using the human prisoners. The idea is to have others work on their leadership skills by running a simulated battle with real soldiers. They give orders to their appropriately outfitted soldiers, and they win if they are able to beat the leader of the opposing group. Oguru himself stands on the sideline and acts as a judge. Examples are Spellsay issuing orders to defensive troops, and Dami ordering archers. Dami and Spellsay are looking pretty strong leadership-wise, but Ogekichi and Bloodsato couldn't get any wins. The humans watching can't even understand what's going on, as it doesn't make sense how goblins are practicing military maneuvers. The commander declares that he's tired of smacking bones around, as he was hoping to fight Oguru head on. Oguru is amazed by his courage. This guy still wants to challenge him even if all his comrades are losing over and over again, so Oguru develops an appreciation for the guy he calls the Steel Knight. The guy is then shocked when Oguru covers him in mana. Oguru explains that he would crush him if he didn't even the playing field a bit. Oguru releases some of his power, and the knight gets excited when this makes it clear that he's willing to fight. Oguru fights him, but the guy never even really had a chance to win, as Oguru absolutely destroys him. Oguru heals him, and Ogekichi declares that he wants to fight the Steel Knight too. As Oguru watches them fight, he can tell that Ogekichi was also inspired by the Steel Knight's spirit. Later, the guy explains that he came from a land where there are many demi-humans, and this is why it's easier for him to talk to them. The Steel Knight has noticed the wide range of races that Oguru has gathered, and he can tell that he organized them very well. He even begins to wonder if Oguru was sent by divine intervention. The guy then quits being a knight and declares that he wants to fight for Oguru. Oguru accepts, which no longer makes him a prisoner, and he decides to make good use of his talent. Oguru makes the redhead his apprentice and instructs him to teach her unique human combat skills. Later, the elf elder agrees to take the wounded humans off their hands. Oguru would like to know about the secret medicine the humans are after, and the elder reveals that it's actually the medicine he gave Oguru before. The medicine is apparently a pretty big deal, and it can cure just about any illness. Oguru can't believe that the old elf gave him something so precious, but the elder explains that their laws only forbid them from sharing it with humans, not the ogre who saved his daughter. Oguru takes the medicine for the first time, and it gives him a strange feeling. It also results in him receiving a ton of strange healing related abilities. Oguru gives one of the injured humans a drop of his blood, and the guy is shocked as he reveals that not only were his injuries healed, his back pain is gone too. Oguru is stunned as well, as he just now realizes that all this ability gaining stuff is starting to get really crazy. He just completely healed this guy with one drop of blood, so he wonders what would happen with more. This kind of ability is on a whole nother level, so Oguru wonders if he has powered up into some seriously crazy territory. Thanks for watching my recap. Sign up to my free newsletter if you want to show some support to the channel, link is in the description.